What's happening, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com. This time checking out the newly introduced to the West, not-so-MOBA from NCSoft known as Master X Master, or MXM for short. This is more of an action RPG style game with a fair amount of MOBA mechanics, or I guess if you want to look at it this way, it's a MOBA game with a decent amount of action RPG mechanics. So yeah, it's kind of 50-50, glass half full kind of thing. Think Marvel Heroes crossed with Heroes of the Storm with WASD controls. That's probably the best way to put it. After seeing it recently at E3, I was intrigued that it wasn't just another MOBA, even though it kind of told us that in the trailers. I guess without seeing it for myself, I didn't really want to believe it. My body wasn't ready, so to speak, but now it is, and Master X Master just finished up its first alpha test to put itself out in front of the community, and after having to add more servers based on popularity and overflow, the alpha test turned out great according to many. So seeing that we are all allowed to record and talk about the game now, I'll hop in and show you what to expect.
Ready up!
Starting out the game just after the intro that explains the backstory a little bit, you get a run-through tutorial that explains the controls and the gameplay mechanics. Now this is important. In this game, like I briefly mentioned, you move with WASD, you jump with the space bar, which is actually very useful in many cases in this game. Now, your main weapon or basic attack is on left click, which is normal, but it varies in style depending on the master you're playing and their main weapon type, which is something that you can actually change up in the game. Kind of cool. Master Taijin here has an automatic machine gun as his main weapon, so you do have continuous fire down range with him, something you don't typically see in MOBAs, which is one of the first things that made it feel a lot different. Not to mention the tutorial is a PvE style, suggesting that this is the main part of the game. Master Inouen, on the other hand, has a single-shot basic attack that can be charged by holding down left-click, dealing more damage the longer you have it charged, of course. You also have an overheating mechanic to deal with as well, so whether it be a machine gun fire or melee attacks, you've got to watch out for overheating or exhausting yourself and lay off the left-click a little bit. The abilities for each master are very MOBA-esque, however, and are laid out on Q and E, along with right-click being some sort of dodge, utility, or defense mechanic. A lot of the times it's a dash, or in this case, it's hide in a box and not get hurt. And then, of course, you have your ultimate on R, which has to be charged up, and seeing that you can, in fact, swap between two masters that you've selected prior to your match, whether it be the PvE or PvP, by scrolling down, the ultimate's cooldown is shared between two masters, so you can't just jump in, switch, and spam two ultis. In fact, there is a 12-second cooldown for tagging between the masters, so the game sort of adds a bit of weight when it comes to when and where you can use the tag system this way. It's actually perfect to use in combat to cheat death in a sense. You can swap out and slowly heal the other master while you're using the healthier character to hold off enemies or fight that boss that's about to kill you. And as you probably figured out, it's also good to choose two characters that sort of complete each other in a ton of ways, trying to figure out your ultimate combination, so to speak. As an example, you might pick a master who has a bunch of really cool CC abilities and tag out immediately into a burst character to rip and tear through single targets. Or do something as simple as pairing a ranged master with a melee master. I guess there's nothing really wrong with that. Or a tank with an assassin. Why not? Whatever works for you. The great part here is that there are a lot of different masters to choose from. You get a couple of them starting out unlocked for you. Others are really easy to unlock quick, and some of those that you actually unlock are really strong. There is another mechanic involved that kinda sorta seems to balance things out a little bit, and that's the Master's Attunement system. Masters are broken into three different energy types: Ardent, Helix, and Kinetic, which basically represent physical, elemental, and energy types, and it's balanced perfectly rock, paper, scissors style, so it's really easy for anybody to understand. You can use two different characters of the same type if you wanted to, but I don't see why you would. It would basically just make it tough on you, seeing that you can always choose two different types of masters, and you're always going to be able to counter something or someone, especially in PvP. Gives your chances of countering a lot better to select two different types. But trying to go up against the type that counters you reduces your damage by 15% due to attunement. Now you'll notice what types of enemies you're going up against when you select the stage, and the bosses you fight at the end of the stage indicate their types as well, which is typically associated with the stage, I'm sure. But don't worry, the story quest actually explains most of this in slightly humorous detail. Oh, and one interesting factor, when it comes to 5v5 PvP, the opposing team only gets to see one of the masters everyone is choosing, so you better always be ready for a surprise counter on your part. That's just one of the features that makes the competitive play exciting and different. Just one. The PvE aspect of the game is the story mode, of course, full of various quests and challenges you might typically find in ARPGs, things like play through this mission on this difficulty, or some that are specific to this game's mechanics, like achieve a stage clear with a combination of an Ardent and Kinetic Master. As you complete these objectives, you earn rewards in the form of nodes, crafting materials, which I didn't really get to explore much of, gold and soul, which are a form of in-game currency, and other loot items that are collected in numbers as a way to unlock certain masters. Collect 10 of these bloody flails in order to unlock Cognazo instead of actually paying real cash currency, as an example. So the in-game currency is actually used to buy items, sometimes skins, and even upgrades from some of the merchant NPCs, but I didn't really have much time to explore that option. The nodes are used to amplify your master's stats. Now, there are 3 different types here as well: offensive, defensive, and auxiliary. And they empower all of your masters at once, no matter which one you have selected. And you can have 6 equipped at the same time, but the efficiency of nodes differs from master to master. You have to manage and balance out nodes in order to take advantage of the efficiency, and if you've got the efficiency maxed out on one, it doesn't necessarily going to mean you're going to have it maxed out on another. Like I said, they differ from master to master. So trying to equip 6 of the same types will definitely ruin your efficiency no matter what. And like I said, you earn these nodes from completing missions. They come in different rarities with stronger influence on your masters with a higher rarity, of course. Again, you can buy these from merchants in the hub with gold, or even craft new ones out of materials and old nodes, but don't worry, the upgrades don't actually roll over into the PvP content. It's strictly PvE stuff. The PvE gameplay is really fun. You can go solo or with a party, and once you get into some of the harder difficulties, you pretty much don't really have a choice but to party up, because it does get a lot harder quick. Each mission has its own flavor, if you will, and as you get further into the game, you'll start seeing some familiar locations, as in locations from other games like Aeon, Blade and Soul, Guild Wars 2, and maybe even WildStar. I'm not sure yet. All the NCSoft games you can think of. Same thing goes with the masters themselves. You might recognize some of the characters from some of your other favorite games. So in a sense, it's kind of like Heroes in the Storm on that note, but at the same time, this game also has plenty of new characters and locations that are unique to this game alone. Of course, at the end of each stage, you then fight a boss, and I've got to say, it's pretty fun given the control style and boss mechanics / overload of telegraphs you've got to watch out for. The boss fights definitely remind me of the Dead Island MOBA. So easy difficulties are just that. Anything beyond that is definitely a challenge despite the rest of the enemies in the stage. The PvP, on the other hand, is a whole nother beast. There are currently 2 different game modes, 3v3 and 5v5, and they are completely different from each other. The 3v3 is a pretty straightforward deathmatch style game mode. The team with the most kills by the end of the match wins. Very straightforward. Here it's one big constant team fight, which is really fun. But keep in mind, you still have to be aware of what type of masters you're fighting against, so that way you can swap out to better match your opponents. You'll definitely realize this when you accidentally get that wrong. One interesting feature, though, is you can upgrade your skills, but you can only do so when you're at your base. And the only way to return to base in this game mode is to die, kind of like Assault and Smite. But there, you can level up your skills, with the max level cap being 15 in this game. And the other cool part here is that it starts tallying up your kill streak above your character. It does this in both PvP game modes, letting your teammates know just how badass you are, and letting your enemies know who they need to try to focus easier. The 3v3 is definitely a quick, fun game mode and lasts only 5 minutes, so easy to get in and play several rounds. The 5v5 game mode is definitely a full-fledged MOBA experience, and then some. It's almost too much, to be honest. This one is called Titan Ruins, and it's a 3-lane map with a jungle and a river, towers and minions, vision capture points, and game changers like titans and other mechanics I'm going to get into. The objective here is to destroy the opposing team's Titan core, or have the most battle points by completing objectives by the time the game time runs out, which is 25 minutes, so matches shouldn't last any longer than that. First 1 to 1,000 wins as well, so that might happen actually before the 25 minutes. Again, the game has an introduction tutorial that explains all of the aspects of this game mode, and then it has you play a bot match in order to get the hang of things. Now this game mode is very similar to Heroes of the Storm in many ways. First off, enemies can't pass through gates until that area's towers are destroyed. Now in this game mode, the jungle camps are called ritualists, and they grant you different buffs that you'd expect to have, but on the outside lanes you have camps that you have to take out in order to obtain a fallen hero that pushes a lane for you. That particular lane, like a merc in Heroes of the Storm. These guys are pretty tanky and very powerful, so they're perfect for taking down the outside towers in a single run, basically. The cool thing about the towers, though, is they too have more than just a basic attack. Sometimes they give out an AoE blast that you've got to watch out for. Another mechanic similar to some of the battleground mechanics in Heroes of the Storm are the Guardians themselves and the Titans that get summoned. When available, some of the team will rush into the Guardian's chamber in order to take out the Guardian before the opposing team does, and doing so is kind of like fighting some of the bosses in the PvE part of the game. But once you've managed to take out a Guardian, you gain a Titan that pushes the mid lane. Again, which works very similar to the Heroes of the Storm mechanics. So you can also get a Titan after every 100 battle points. Remember I said 1,000 points wins the match for you, so every 100 you get a new Titan. The scary part is that the Titan is capable of clearing out the enemy's core completely on its own, so it's crucial to fight alongside them or against them, especially. Most of the time you have a Titan on your side and one on the opposing side fighting each other due to gaining them every 100 points and the match being close. If this isn't the case, well, you might be able to tell that the matches can snowball really quick. Just to give you an idea and add another mechanic to the mix, whenever you kill a Titan, they drop Titan shards that you need to bring back to your base, however you can. Don't get killed while you have one of these, otherwise it's going to get stolen. Then, once you have 10 of these collected, one of the masters on your team, you have to choose, I guess, amongst yourselves, can transform into a legendary Titan. Now, this does crazy damage and can pretty much call the match. This part is a little unfair towards the enemy masters and towers. They basically get smashed like bugs, as you can tell. They too have abilities, but really didn't get to explore them much when I was playing. That sort of gives you an idea how many times you see these game-changing, potentially snowballing Titans on the battlefield. It takes 10 shards to make one legendary Titan, and that's a lot of Titans to kill when each one is a risk in itself. So, although the game mode is really fun and unique, at the moment I kind of feel like there's a lot of mechanics to work with within a single match. But, you know, that's just me. And things could change. The game is still in alpha. Oh yeah, and you do have other mechanics that you're used to in other MOBAs, like being able to go back to base, B, as well as a special ability. In this case it's C, like I can heal myself with a cooldown. But at the same time, you don't have to worry about buying items or earning gold for that matter. And just like the 3v3, you can level up your master as you go back to base. That gives you more than one reason to return every once in a while if you aren't dying. I can say there will be plenty of times when you think you're about to kill an enemy master and then they switch on you to a nearly full health master that also happens to be a tank most of the time. That's definitely a mechanic that needs some getting used to, potentially rage-inducing. I did find it fun, however, stealing Titan shards from enemies. That works out nice. As far as the cash shop goes, it's pretty much as you expected. We've got the typical MOBA setup going on here with masters that you can recruit with C-Coin, the real cash currency in the game, if you don't want to meet the in-game cost requirements or whatever it may be to unlock them that way, one of which just requires you to have 10 friends to unlock. So if you don't have 10 friends, well, I guess you're paying money for that one. Of course, you do have masters on free rotation, and luckily enough for those who were in the alpha, we got a crap ton of C-Coin to use temporarily. Sadly, we don't get to keep it all, so we could purchase masters and skins. So far, each master has about 4 or 5 skins to choose from and buy, most of which look really good. Anyway, guys, that about wraps it up for my first look. There's still tons more that I really didn't get to talk about or even explore in the time that I got to play the game. Like I mentioned before, there was actually a lot of stuff to check out for an alpha. Hopefully you guys who haven't been able to explore it yet will get your opportunity really soon, because the game, as of now, is a blast, and I am so glad that it's not just a MOBA. It's way more than just that. There were a couple of things that did concern me slightly, like the complexity of all the currencies and resources, maybe a little too many systems in the 5v5 PvP, you know, that sort of stuff. But again, it's alpha. We haven't really been able to have enough time to explore the game in a lot of detail yet. That being said, I'll probably hop in with a gameplay video once the game goes live again, whenever that might be. But until then, guys, thanks for watching. Pick up more information, videos, reviews, news, and potential giveaways at the MMOHuts game profile for Master X Master. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.